Okay, so we should probably talk about this. So the iPads received their last major update in 2018 when they got the nice squared off edges and the bigger display. And since then, things have been kind of stagnant. But with the Let Loose event on May 7th, Apple seems to be ready to update their iPad lineup. This got me thinking, is this what iPad really needs? And should we even care about this? Ever since the birth of iPad Pro in 2015, there's been this looming question on our minds as to whether iPad can eventually replace a computer. I mean, it was absolutely marketed that way with the keyboard accessories and the pencil and the question of what's a computer. People were definitely in the line of thinking, oh, is this the future of mobile computing? And man, it's been nearly a decade and we're still having the same conversation, plus or minus a few software updates. I mean, right now, you can do this on Apple. You can spec out a brand new iPad Pro with an M2 chip, 16 gigs of RAM, 2 terabytes of storage, a new Magic Keyboard, the second gen Apple Pencil for $2,700. Now, this to me sounds like something that should be a viable and functional laptop replacement. Well, as I'm sure you're aware, it's not really. And this isn't a failure of hardware. This is a failure of software. Now, none of what I'm saying is new, but if the rumors are true about May's event, then the price of the iPad Pros is actually going to increase. And I mean, what are we even doing at this point? Honestly, I don't need the new OLED XDR Max Pro Plus Mega high resolution display on my iPad if my MacBook can handle 90% of my day-to-day tasks much more effectively, efficiently, and reliably. To this day, Apple has insisted on doing things on the iPad way.
To this day!
Do you want to have a trackpad? Okay, we're not going to do a regular pointer. We're going to use this dynamic cursor, which feels imprecise and a little weird to use. You want to edit video? Okay, Final Cut, but it's designed for iPad and it's a little weird. Okay, what about managing files? Well, you have to use the Files app instead of Finder. And if you want to edit a PDF and sign it and send it back to somebody in email, well, it might not save, and you might have to save it in a weird place and then send it back. It's just very inconvenient. I could go on, but I'm sure if any of you own an iPad, you know what I'm talking about with these daily frustrations. This approach is disappointing because it goes against the future of computing. I mean, we've talked about merging laptops and tablets for literally a decade, and we're nowhere closer than we were 9 years ago. And I know what you're thinking. I mean, Surface tried it. It wasn't the best product, and I get that. And that's totally fair. There are definitely imperfect implementations of this idea, but if anyone can do it correctly, I think it's Apple. The problem is I don't know who an iPad Pro is really for anymore, and I haven't for a while, ever since they added the M1 chips, but kept it on iPadOS. Anyone with a sort of complicated workflow that requires coding or design or editing or any of the above is just gonna get a MacBook because it's more effective and more efficient. And if you're in school or you want something to take notes with or design with, then you should probably just get the iPad Air, which is significantly cheaper. I mean, am I alone in wishing that I could have my iPad be my computer? Let me know if this is something that you've thought about as well. It would be nice to have a device that can reliably handle my day-to-day, but also doubles as my creative device for drawing, art, note-taking, etc. I mean, I can't be alone, right? Now, of course, Apple doesn't want to eat up their own MacBook sales, but I still think there's a market for MacBook even if they were to either merge macOS with iPadOS or bring macOS to the iPad. The people with really complicated and dedicated workflows running AI, coding, etc., would probably still opt for a higher end MacBook Pro. Some people aren't going to want to have to deal with a tablet screen. They're not going to want to deal with one port. They're not going to want to deal with the balancing issues of the Magic Trackpad and are going to opt for a laptop. But for the people who want a tablet because of the Apple Pencil, they should still be able to get their day-to-day done with macOS on iPad. And that's the problem, is there's still going to be a market for both, but by right now, the software limits it so that even if you have an iPad Pro that's spec'd up, you probably still want a MacBook so that you can actually manage your important tasks effectively and efficiently. The iPad just isn't good for that. Plus, there's actually evidence that Apple has cannibalized their own products in the past. Do you guys remember the iPod Touch? I mean, that thing was amazing. I used to use mine all the time. But then iPhone came along and they enfolded the features of iPod Touch into iPhone and got rid of iPod Touch. That was a great move. It took guts and we love Apple for it. I think iPads and laptops are at the same stage right now. And actually, in my opinion, they've been there ever since they added M1 to the iPad Pro. So let's wait. As amazing as the iPads are going to be, and they always are, only WWDC a month later will actually give us a glimpse of whether that future that we're all looking forward to is actually on the horizon. That's been it. If you learned something, consider subscribing, and I'll catch you guys next time.